I mean, again, and you know this too from sitting in that chair, the way how easy Howard made radio. I mean, he changed it, but you know, you know this, you'd go on the air and you're like, there's millions of people listening, and he's just like eating his breakfast. We don't even talk, and he puts the mic on, like he burps, and he just goes into some brilliant story about his parents at a barbecue, and then you just roll with it. And then it's because podcasts nowadays, everything's an hour, the attention span and stuff. I mean, those were 5-hour epic laugh fests.
Yeah, and I remember that first time. You're reminding me that I walked up. I was really nervous.
That's the most nervous I've ever been.
I walked. It was March 15th. I still remember the day, March 15th. I still remember walking up 6th Avenue from my hotel to the old K-Rock studios.
Dude, I have a similar story. I remember every foot.
It's 4:30 in the morning as I'm walking up 6th Avenue, and I see a bunch of guys my age walking the other direction with a 40 of some beer, and they're hammered, and they're laughing, and I'm like, I should be hanging out with these guys.
Right. Well, no, especially we're comics. You're up all night. You're going from nocturnal to this.
Yeah, and
Did you stay up all night?
No,
because the first couple times I stayed up all night, I couldn't sleep.
I got my sleep in, and I got up, and I went to the studio, and I got there at 5 a.m. I think Gary was the only one there at 5, and then I saw Fred start to roll, and I saw all recognizable faces. And it was
Freddie would get there about 5:30, yeah.
5:55. I'm in the studio. Howard's still not here, and they start playing Rob Zombie, the opening of the music.
Deep down,
And then Howard comes walking in with Ronnie behind him. And he's got a bunch of stuff. He puts it down. Gary's talking. I'm trying to give him a quick. Okay, so Pam Anderson is going to be calling in.
Yeah, Gary's my favorite impression.
And then and Howard's going, yeah. And he goes, oh, and Craig's here. Craig Gass is here. And he goes, Craig. Your mic's on. And that was it. That was my only advice.
Yeah,
your mic is on.
Your mic is on. Well, again, he's like, what he changed with radio was, again, I would come in and I'd say, and I was a big fan of that show. May 7th, 2001 was my first day on that show.
Yeah.
And so I remember, and I did the same thing. I was still living in LA, but I came back after and I was waiting to see if the sitcom was going to get picked up. I didn't know yet. And if the Norm Show got picked up for a 3rd season, my life would have been very different because I would have had to go back to LA. I wouldn't have had a chance.
Wow.
But I got there 4:30 in the morning. I was walking around 6th Avenue, and Robin Quiverzak, they knew me before because I had come in with Norm a few times.
Right.
Was that your first time ever on the show? See, I'd been a guest, so it was a little easier.
I started calling in 1995. I used to do this piece called Sam Kinison Calling Live from Hell.
He must have loved that. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Sure,
every time someone that we could all agree was an asshole, just someone we like, all right, nobody really liked that guy. When an asshole would die, I'd be the only guy in America. I would get pen to paper and start writing. Like when Jeffrey Dahmer was beat to death, I was on the air the next morning as Sam Kinison calling in live from the gates of hell. No, hey guys, Jeffrey Dahmer's already down here now. He's got his own cooking show on a public access show, and he's looking at my ass like it's a T-bone. Oh! Yeah, and it was just really...
I love the premise that Sam's in hell.
Yeah, and I started doing all these different characters on the show. I started writing because Jackie used to write my material, and Jackie, who's a funny comedian, Jackie would write sticky punchlines for Sam Kinison, and it sounded like every one of his lines...
So on the phone, they would send you material to call in with?
Yep, Jackie would write the material.
Right.
And Jackie would send me the script, and they sounded like Jackie Martling jokes coming out of Sam's mouth.
Wow.
And I remember after doing that for a couple of years, I asked Gary, "Hey, would you mind if I wrote something?" Because I think I feel like that Sam would speak in a different language.
Absolutely.
And he said, "Yeah, we'll just send some. We'll take a look at it." And I sent it to him, and he said,
"Goes right to Gary."
And he goes, I talked to Howard, and it's fucking funny, man.
It is great. We got to give Gary props. It is great because the first time after I sat in, I was worried about how it went. I felt it went good. And Gary said to me, for us, it's a home run. Come in next week, too. And, it was nice getting affirmation from Gary, too. He was helpful in that. He was good to comics. Gary.
Yeah, there was a few guys in there that were always really nice to me. And And it's weird
But
because
so in other words, my question was your first time in the studio when you said your mic is on. That you were never in the studio.
I had never been in the studio. I was always calling in.
See, I had done it with Norm 4 times in studio, so that helped cushion it a little bit. That your mic is on, bro.
Yeah, I was starting.
And you were never, dude. By the way, you were never not funny on that show. You were never not funny.
You know, it's crazy. I just I wasn't as good of a fit as you were. You were such a fan of the show, and you also represented the fans more than I did. I was a little overwhelmed because I was really intimidated by Howard's fame.
Me too. Sure, me too. It took me a while to get over that. I don't know if I ever did.
And I do remember a couple moments where I felt like I was comfortable enough to like talk to him, and I would call him and say, "Hey, I got an idea for something," and I wouldn't hear back. And then I'd see him in the studio on Monday, and I'd go, "Hey, I tried to call you about that idea. Did you get my message?" And he said, "Yeah, I called you back, but I got your voicemail, and I don't know who listens to your voicemail." So he goes, "I didn't leave a message."
Super insecure.
And I said, "Who?" I go, "I listen to my voicemail." I go, "I don't."
No, but I'm sure he goes through like
Yeah.
I got to admit, the first couple times he called me, I let a couple of my buddies hear the voicemail.
Oh, dude. There were George Carlin left me messages, and I played I saved back when they were answer machine tapes. I saved all my answer machine tapes from George Carlin. Drunken
Carlin
messages.
called me once. So what a great guy he was.
Oh my God, George was the nicest, sweetest, most accessible, shockingly accessible guy.
I did the Great Kilborn show to promote this movie, The Bachelor, that I did back in like '99, and Zoe Friedman, who I love, was the booker. And I say to my manager, Peter Principato, at the time, "Well, who's the first guest?" I was second. He goes, "George Carlin." And I started laughing. I go, "Are you okay?" He's saying the name of the best comedian ever to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Like you want. I want it to be, whatever, Ariana Grande
Reese
was.
Witherspoon.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good. If you following a lame actress who's boring, that's the best on talk shows. Yeah. So I go, "Excuse me?" I go, "George Carlin." I go, "What the fuck are you talking about? George Carlin?" I said, how am I going to follow George Carlin? So he goes out, he kills. And when you do one of those talk shows, like there's a no man's land where there's no agents and there's no like stage manager. There's just you, like where the guest is for 2 seconds. You're all by your lonesome, and you're with your thoughts and you're intimidated. So when Carlin was leaving the stage, like a standing ovation, he sees me walking, and he had asked Zoe, this other guy's a comedian, right? And he goes, "Yeah." So Carlin just knew how insecure I was about it. He knew, he could see I was going through it. He goes, "Come here, Artie, come here." He goes, "You're going to do great, pal. You're going to do great. Don't worry about this. Don't be intimidated." Gives me his phone number. Had his phone number waiting because he thought it would make me feel better. Wow. So I said, "I can't fucking believe this. I couldn't believe how nice he was." He goes, "You want to talk about jokes, material, go kick some ass out there and call me." So I go out there, and you know what? I said, the first thing I said got me out of the woods. I said, "This is great, Greg. It's always great to follow the best comedian ever." And that got a laugh, and that loosened up, and I did okay.
And it's a perfect line, by the way.
Yeah, but I did okay. But as good as I could have. And I called Carlin about a week later, and he called me back. And I mean, we talked about jokes, material and stuff like that. I never bugged him again.